Today's case is a mature intumescent cataract with a well-dilated pupil. In the beginning, a stab incision is created. Trypan blue dye is then injected into the anterior chamber. This is then washed off with balanced salt solution, and then the anterior chamber is formed with viscoelastics. Planning the RHEXIS is essential in mature intumescent cataracts, as these cataracts have raised intralenticular pressures. So, a 26 gauge needle with its bevel down is used to puncture the anterior lens capsule, and the milky cortex is aspirated. Viscoelastic is then injected in order to flatten the anterior lens capsule. You can observe a V-shaped configuration of the anterior capsular flap. This helps in preventing the runaway of the RHEXIS, as the vector forces are not aligned parallelly. The RHEXIS can then be initiated by guiding the capsular flap in a circular manner. Adequate use of viscoelastics is essential in these cases to prevent the shallowing of the anterior chamber and the runaway of the RHEXIS. The RHEXIS was tending to run away, and therefore the anterior chamber was entered with a clear corneal incision with a 2.8 mm keratome. Now, while attempting to retrieve the capsular flap with Utretas, there was a sudden shallowing of the anterior chamber and an extension was suspected. Fortunately, there was no extension noted, and in order to get a wider RHEXIS, a nick is made with a Vanna scissors, and then the anterior capsular flap is widened to get an adequate sized RHEXIS. Now, the phaco probe is then used to shave off some superficial cortical matter from the anterior surface of the nucleus. Now, in phaco 1 mode, a small burr hole is created superiorly. This technique helps the surgeon to convert from a stop and chop now to a direct chop. In phaco 2 mode, the phaco probe is buried into the substance of the nucleus adequately, slightly lifted up, and using the chopper, a combined chop is used to split the two halves of the nucleus, and a good red reflex is appreciated. The nucleus is then rotated 90 degrees, and the phaco probe is buried into the heminucleus and split into two halves. The quadrant of the nucleus is then emulsified. This provides a good space for the maneuverability of the nucleus within the capsular bag. The same procedure is repeated on the opposite heminucleus as well. Special care should be taken while emulsifying the last fragment, as there is no epinucleus in these cases. As you can see, the cortex is very sticky, so a hydrojet is performed to loosen out the sticky cortex. The bimanual irrigation and aspiration can then be performed easily as the cortex are freed from their adhesions. A final wash should be done to remove off any remnant cortical fibers which may be adherent to the posterior capsule. Now, under irrigation, the foldable intraocular lens is injected into the capsular bag, and the trailing haptic is then dialed into the capsular bag. You can see a good overlap of the anterior capsular margin and a well-centered intraocular lens. The side ports and the main wound are then hydrated, and you can see a well-formed anterior chamber. 4 hours post-op revealed a clear cornea and a well-centered IOL.